2016. And today we say Standing Rock is everywhere in the whole world. And we stood up for Maniwichoni, Warder's life. We're so honored to all the people of the world that stood with us. We are spiritual people of the Turtle Island. And I think about, we say our brother, Myron Dewey. No, after he put his work on a website, that day, the very next day, we lost him. But his spirit is still with us today. We know that World Peace and Prayer Day and people of the world, we're still in the front lines of what's happening to Uchimaka, Mother Earth. And we still stand for what is, we say, protecting Mother Earth. And today, we are going back to our sacred sites on June 21st. We are going back to our spiritual way of life. And we're asking all nations to stand with us wherever they are in the whole world, to pray with us on June 21st. Because we can create an energy shift upon Mother Earth in peace and healing. Through our prayers, we bring that balance of peace and harmony back to Uchimaka. And today, Myron's brother is here with us. And he's carrying on the work of digital smoke signals. So I'd like to introduce him as he comes from his territory. And so our brother here, I'd like to have him.
Oh, thank you, Arvol. No, Josh Guinea, Walk River Paiute, tribal member, Western Shoshone tribe of the Great Basins of to Myron Dewey. We lost a giant who spoke for our land and for our people. But we didn't lose his work. We are the legacy of his work. Each and every one of us that he touched, we carry that work that he was doing through the digital smoke signals with the media and the drone. Today, through the teachings of my brother, I'm standing to oppose a lithium mine in northern Nevada, where we stand in solidarity with the people of Red Mountain, who are the original descendants to the massacres at Puhima'a. It's going on 2 years, and they started construction. They started to desecrate the burial sites, our medicine, our traditional harvesting areas where we pray in our ceremonies. 2 weeks ago, the security in the sheriff department they came in and they tore down the teepees. They broke the teepee poles in half, and our ceremony staff that was up, they put it in a garbage bag upside down with eagle feathers in the trash bags. We have an appeal court in Pasadena on June 27th. I'm here because I'd say Uncle Arvol, gave me the space to speak so the world could hear what is happening to us in our lands. But I also have a brother that's on the Zoom. I think he's on the Zoom. He's the original descendant to the people that were massacred there, and I like for him to come in and speak a little bit about. Okay, so this massacre that had happened was September 12th, 1865. The cavalry came in early dawn, and the people were still asleep. They were awoken by the first family getting murdered by the cavalry. The reason for this murder was to move our people to the reservation. Near, the reservation is now called McDermott. The bloodshed that's there, that's what we're standing for. Our ancestors to protect that land. And BLM, Lithium America, is keeping us out from praying, from gathering, from putting medicine down for our ancestors. I got a cheat sheet here on my phone, sorry. There was 923 cultural sites in this area that was recorded. 56 of them are eligible for the National Register of Historical Places. Okay. So, sorry about that, you guys. I got a little bit distracted here. So the original name of Thacker Pass is Puhima'a. Puhima'a is a Paiute word for rotten moon. It was named that from the first massacre from tribe to tribe. The men, they were coming over the mountain there, and it was a full moon, and they could smell the bodies of their women and children, and that's where they started to call Thakrapaz Puhima'a. My brother Gary, he's on the Zoom. He's been doing a lot of work with archaeologists, historians, attorneys. We're trying to get Puhima'a put on the list for a monument, to be a documented monument place. Sorry. We want to use this place to continue to revitalize our language, our culture, our pathways of life, our way of life to our youth. Teach them how to hunt, to gather, teach them how to pray through ceremony. Pahima is one of many places that's going to be destructed by the construction of lithium. I think there's about 17,000 sites in Nevada. Pahima is third largest in the nation. We have another sacred site where we harvest our pine nuts. It's a proposed site for a copper mine. They want to destroy the whole mountainside. These are three components of lithium battery: copper, cobalt, and lithium. All those minings are proposed sites in our area for green energy, they call it. But it's not green energy. It's not green when we gotta, stand up to protect our way of life, our ancestors. I just ask for all of you in the world, the nation, to stand with us in prayer. We can't fight this fight without prayer. We ask to research what is going on, what has happened in our area with Pahima, and help any way you can with your knowledge, with your ceremony, and with your prayer. I just thank you guys, thank you everybody for their time, and thank Arvol for this time. Yeah, I'd like to introduce Gary McKinney. Oh, there he is. There's the brother. Go ahead, Gary.
Oh, thanks, Brother Josh, for explaining what's going on out here in Northern Nevada. I'm probably going to be getting a little bit of feedback, but I hope y'all can hear me. My name is Gary McKinney. I'm from the Duck Valley Indian Reservation, Shoshone Paiute. I'm here today in the Oahe High School gym. We are doing a community awareness event. We're doing a community awareness event here in the town of Oahe, which has been plagued with dirty mining, tailings, waste piles, things like that since the 1800s. And we, as our community members, are here today in solidarity with y'all there in Mount Shasta as we continue to navigate and spread the awareness about what's happening around us to land, air, water, and spirit, as one of our former elders would say. And I'm here today with members of different communities, Fort McDermott, just in different areas we come to talk about what's happening. So for the past 2.5 years, we've been fighting to protect water and the land there in the area called Thacker Pass, which is the final resting place of a lot of our ancestors that lived back in the time of the 1860s. And those are the kind of sites that we have out here, because it's really we have a history that we have. The Snake War that happened between the 1864 to 1868 was something that it really went undocumented, and it really, around that time, that is when our people started displacement. And, this was 1864, before Red Cloud's War in 65. And we have a specific timeline. 1864 to 1868 was our Snake War. And then in 1878, 1877 was when this reservation was established. 1878 was when the uprising happened. And then 1879 was our march to Fort Simcoe, Washington, and that's a couple states away. And this is the narrative that our elders and our people within our families have been holding for generations. And we are in the time right now where we have our tribal governments aren't really set up to protect those things on their own grassroots. But we as Northern Paiutes and Western Shoshones, we have a desire to save our water. We need clean drinking water for our next 7 generations. And we have in our community, in the future, we hope to carry on in a good way. We have significant leaders in our community in here today, and we're about halfway through our event right now, and what we're talking about is the dreams, not the nightmares. And we're leading a prayer horse ride across the state of Nevada, and it's for unity, healing, and awareness. And we're focusing on everybody. We feel that it's time to come together as one and work towards feeling better about the land, the air, and the water, and our spirits that's with us today and what we have today. We don't want to see those things go or disappear or become sold or something like that. So we're doing things to the best that we know how. Today, we are a part of a community awareness event. We're talking everything about the old mining history to the old school, the new school, and so on and so forth. And we want to continue to build solidarity with other communities and other nations, because we protect ourselves. The people do. We do. We're the ones that are living with these things. So we have a lot of work to do. And, I want to send my acknowledgments, send my thank yous to the Uncle Arvol there in Paula for opening up this space for us and standing with us and supporting the things that we do. And, so with that, I hope that I covered enough things. We're right in the middle of our community awareness event. So as soon as I get off here, it's can I have everybody come and stand behind? I want to show some solidarity, It's on here. So with me right here is, we have relatives from here in Nevada, Western Shoshone territories and Northern Paiute territories. And so we come here in a good way to listen and to support the prayer. We're looking forward to the work. So we send our love to you all there. Thank you everybody for joining in on the link, and we'll be with you in prayer. As I take a look around, it's been 2.5 years of talking to people and doing these things, and it's not going to happen overnight. And so we have our community members here, the people that are willing to stand up for our water and our land and continue in prayer. And so I want to thank our community here for coming up and taking that step. Today we're here in solidarity with World Peace and Prayer Day. Aho.
Bye.
Dewey's grandson, and his name's gonna be Praise Myron Dewey. So either today or tomorrow, any day. So, oh, thank you.
Thank you, Josh, for that presentation, and also Gary McKinney. We're all very appreciative for you to join us via Zoom. Our next presenter, it's going to be a small documentary on Protect Botswana Collective. We don't have the filmmaker here, more to protect their identity and just protect their identity. But they do send a message that what is depicted in the film is happening right now to the indigenous people of Mayanga, whose ancestral forest is the Unseko Biological Reserve. So we will run that.
La importancia consiste en que nuestra forma de vivir es muy diferente con los demás. Porque nosotros no somos hechos para estar de lujo en casas de cementos, de pisos. Para nosotros somos muy satisfechos al ver que estamos a la orilla de un río maravilloso, al ver un bosque frondoso, una riqueza natural, en otras palabras, riqueza natural, no riqueza materializada.
Nicaragua is a beautiful land in the middle of Central America, divided west and east by culture. The western half of Nicaragua was taken by the Spanish, who imposed Catholicism and the Spanish language on the original people. The eastern half was taken by the British, who imposed the Moravian Church and the English language upon it. There are two large tropical forests on the Atlantic side, the east side of Nicaragua. The northern forest is a UNESCO recognized biological reserve called Basawas, forever occupied by the Mayanga people as well as the Mikitu people. The southeast tropical forest is called Indio Maiz and is occupied by the indigenous Rama people and the Afro-indigenous people called Creole. It is also a UNESCO recognized biodiversity biological reserve. Both of these reserves are undergoing a terrible crisis at this time. For the past 10 years, their lands have been invaded by mixed-race ranchers who want to destroy the forest, take the land, and use it for cattle grazing. So, just like happened 500 years ago, there is an invasion and taking of the land by brute force by mixed-race settlers who are invading indigenous villages, killing the villagers, burning their homes, and driving them away from their fields, which they have farmed communally for as long as people can remember. This is the crisis which we want to stop: the destruction of the forests, the theft of the land from the indigenous people. The short film you are about to see is a trailer for a film coming out called Patrulla, or Patrol. In the film, one settler says he didn't have to pay for the land, he just took it. A woman settler says, "There is much land here, we need it. They are few and we are many," seemingly not caring that these lands are the lungs of Central America and supposedly protected UNESCO biodiversity zone. Patrulla tells about the forest ranger patrols that the indigenous men have organized to protect their lands from the invaders. but the national government has taken away the rifles that they used in the past for hunting, whereas the settler invaders have machine guns. The film is about the Rama and Creole patrols in Indio Maíz Biological Reserve, but the exact same thing is happening to the Mayagna people in the Bosawa Reserve in the north with even more intensity.
We love the reserva. We love the naturaleza. We know what lose what we get now. The campesinos then they come in with cattle, cut down the tree, them, they destroy the reserva.
Cuando yo vine a este lugar, yo conocí que todo es reserva. Yo agarré mi tuco de tierra porque no lo compro, no pago. Entonces, así lo estamos haciendo.
Los ramas, ellos tienen necesidad de su reserva, pero la necesidad de nosotros es mayor que la de ellos. Ellos son pocos, nosotros somos en cantidades.
El presidente de Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega Saavedra, inauguraron la planta de ganadería integral Su Carne.
Se nos está presentando la oportunidad de dar el gran salto, insertarnos en la economía global.
We Rama people get dead and you know what is them nothing.
Without biodiversity, there's no clean water, there's no clean air.
The colonial tradition is destroy jungle. Destroy jungle to raise cattle.
What happens when you take out 50% of biodiversity or 70%? There's a point at which we don't know what's going to happen.
If you really need what you have to look the way to protect it. Are we ready? Let's go!
If we don't fire this place, nobody will do it.
She got a lot of cow.
Somehow there are people who move for this place, and we attack them. We need people to know what's going on in Indio Maíz. I don't want my children to see the tree or the animal only in picture.
In recent years, and even as recent as this year, 2023, the violence has been increasing. There have been assaults, there has been harassment, there has been displacement of the indigenous Mayagna people in the Bosawa Reserve. Settlers are coming into the area committing these violent acts without consequence. The government has failed to protect and defend the rights of the people in these communities. Also, community members of Sabaquitan were wounded by a bullet and a machete. There was kidnapping and a massacre in the Wilu community. We have had two objectives in sharing this with you today. One, to raise awareness of the situation happening in Bosawas Reserve, Nicaragua. And two, to let the Nicaraguan government know that people are paying attention to what's happening there. And the Nicaraguan government must stop the invaders immediately. We ask that you contact your nearest Nicaraguan embassy and demand that the persecution of the Mayagna immediately stop. Demand that the Nicaraguan government protect the Mayanga and remove the colonizers who have taken over the lands in the Bosawa Biological Reserve.
That hurt my heart. We'd like to thank the people, the filmmakers that participated in World Peace and Prayer Day and providing that documentary and educating us on how we are able to help spread the word and protect not only our resources, but also provide aid for others. Our next speaker is going to be coming via Zoom. Her name is Carla Ray Marshall. She's from our territory up north, Minikoju, Oglala, Lakota. She is working to protect our sacred site, Haisapa, the Black Hills, from mining, and asks for an urgent call for support and help to protect our sacred site. So here's a presentation from Carla Ray Marshall.
Black Hills of South Dakota and Wyoming. My name is Carla Ray Marshall. I'm Minikoju Oglala Lakota, enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. I'm a grandmother earth advocate, water protector, founder of Watecha Challenge. I'm also a board member of the Black Hills Clean Water Alliance and the Rapid Creek Watershed Action. And our teams have been working around the clock, and we have some good news and urgent call to action. So with that, thank you to the organizers for allowing me to submit my video today. So today my presentation is going to be about protecting Black Hills water from mining. I've been doing this work for close to 10 years now, if not longer. But right now we have an urgent call to action to support the mineral claims withdrawal. But the comments are due tomorrow, June 20th at 11:59 p.m. So I would like to go over some of what's been happening in the Black Hills that brings us to this mineral claims withdrawal. On March 21st, the USDA Forest Service BLM announced a proposal for this withdrawal of 20,574 acres, which includes the Pactola Reservoir and a portion of the Rapid Creek watershed. Why is this important? Chasapa holds our creation story, our coming into being as human beings. They hold our ancient teachings, our stories, and historical events. They hold eons of memory in our DNA, and water is our main entity, and I truly believe that. And this is a picture of my Takoja, Lila. She's my Lila ray of sunshine. Since time immemorial, Chasapa has been known to us as Wamake Oganake Ichante, the heart of everything that is. This ancient oasis on the prairie, our sacred site, provides us with our natural medicines, food, and healing waters, and is home to thousands of species of wildlife and plant nations. Today we must work fast to protect our heart. So, the heart of everything that is. This is a historical map that I use to kind of give you a brief look at our sacred sites. We have Wind Cave down here, which is our creation story. We have the Inakaga. All these are in our creation stories. This is the sacred hoop racetrack. We got Matotipila here. And then we have all these waterways that flow from the Chasapa and goes east to the Missouri River. Goes across western parts of western South Dakota. So the aquifers are important because they are what gives us water. So the major bedrock aquifers in the Chasapa are Spearfish, Minilusa, Minikata, the Madison, Deadwood, and the Inakaga. The Madison and Minilusa are the two most important aquifers in the Black Hills. And that is because of the utilization for water supplies and important influence on surface water resources. And that's by the United States Geological Survey. Next, we have the watersheds. We have 9 of them, which the Rapid Creek, Upper Rapid Creek is Rapid Creek, Castle Creek, and then you have the lower. So this is Pactola right here, Upper Rapid Creek and the Lower Rapid Creek. Like I said, all this water flows east. The Chasapa is treaty territory under the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868. In 1872, the General Mining Act was passed due to them finding gold and minerals throughout the United States, but in 1872, gold was also discovered in French Creek in the Black Hills. The whites and miners encroached illegally into the Black Hills at that time. The Lakota asked government to help protect the lands. They received no help. And then in 1875, the federal government tried to buy the Black Hills for $5 million. Our ancestors refused to meet the government commission. The Black Hills is not for sale. Now let's take a quick look at what past mining has done to the Black Hills. Right here you have a Superfund site. It's called the Gilt Edge, and that has acid rock drainage. And that's been going on for about 20 years now. Then you have the historic Homestake Mine open cut. This is in Leeds, South Dakota, and that was a gold mine from 1876 to 2001. Now it's just a huge scar, 1,200 feet deep and a half-mile wide. So that's what gold mining does to our lands. Now, taking a look at this mining claims map provided by the Black Hills Clean Water Alliance, there are now 261,000 acres of active mining claims in the Black Hills. That's since April 26, 2023. There are close to 33,000 more acres of claims since December of 2022. This means that these active mining claims could become large-scale mines. And I might want to add that 3 of the top 10 largest gold mining companies in 2023 are Barrick, Newmont, and Agnico Eagle, and those have links in the Black Hills. Mining claims threaten water, land, and human health. Each mining claim is approximately 20 acres. Mining companies lease swaths of these land claims. That means these active claims are cited for exploration and could become large-scale mining operations. Claims in our region are in 6 counties, 4 in South Dakota and 2 in Wyoming. The Black Hills is under attack. These are all the minerals that these companies are seeking. In 2009 is when the Black Hills Clean Water Alliance was formed, and they were formed in order to protect water from uranium mining. PowerTech came in and they proposed a 1,500 in situ leach mining well operation down here in the Dewey Burdock. We have been in front of this every step of the way for the permitting process, and so right now their federal permits are at a standstill and they can't get state permits until they get federal permits. So right now they are owned by Encore Energy. Then for gold, there's the Wharf Gold Mine, which is the only operating gold mine in the state of South Dakota. They've been operating. The mine is a 7.5 mile in circumference around this mega mine. Then you have all this gold exploration, these companies right here, which dates they came in. F3 Gold wanted to do the Jenny Gulch project, which was above Pactola and in Rapid Creek watershed. That is why we have the mineral claims withdrawal, because we were every step of the way for this permitting process. We were there. Then you have up here in the Matotipila is rare earths that a company is seeking to explore for and or mine up there. So then we have lithium. Now, if you know, lithium is a big push here in the United States now due to the electric vehicles and all the electronics that are being manufactured nowadays. So this is why we say the Chesapa is under attack. So this is the Wharf gold mine in the northern part of the Black Hills up by Lead. So WARF owns the land, and that is regulated by the state for water quality and land usage. Since 1983, WARF has reported 189 accidental spills to the state. The total units are gallons, tons, or cubic yards, and that's a question because some of their reports that they have sent to the state all the way back from 1983, where they're supposed to put units in, some of those are left blank. There are not a lot of them, but there are some. However, that does add up to 124,216, and most of the spills are listed as gallons. So that's cyanide solution, petroleum, diesel, mining pond releases or spills, any type of environmental spills they have to report to the state. So with this information that I found out about their spills, environmental events, that type, I was doing research and I found out that information. So in March of 2023, WARF applied to the state for another expansion of 40 plus acres, and that is called the Boston expansion. The state held a public comment period, and those who commented could now legally intervene. So I did comment. I received my packet from the state, and it said pages, 13 pages. On the last page, I was reading that, and it said, if you would like to intervene, then petition to be an intervener. So I prayed about it, and I decided, okay, I'm going to intervene. And I was the sole intervener. Nobody else intervened. But because I did that, then the media picked it up because now it is considered a contested case. And I had to go to Pier. We had to sit in front of the Board of Minerals and Mining. The state was on my left and WARF was on my right, and they had all their PowerPoints, and I had to ask questions. I couldn't make comments. I just had to ask them questions. So, and I went by myself, but I figured, I have 1,000 ancestors behind me. So anyway, the state Board of Minerals and Mining will decide on this expansion in July. But because I intervened, then we did find out that it became public knowledge now is that WARF is currently in violation of state surface water selenium standards in the east branch of False Bottom Creek, which that flows all the way over towards Spearfish. False Bottom Creek does. I don't know how far the selenium goes, but anyway, so as they say, pictures are worth 1,000 words. Please support the mining claim withdrawal for the Pactola Reservoir and the Rapid Creek watershed. Comment before 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on June 20th. Public comment works. Since 2008, we have continued to object to F3 Gold's Jenny Gulch exploration project near the Pactola Reservoir and Rapid Creek watershed. So this recent development for a mineral claims withdrawal is good news. If approved, the mineral claims withdrawal will protect 20,574 acres for 20 years. However, the Rapid Creek watershed west of Rapid City is approximately 198,000 acres. So you see this black line here all around. That's the entire Rapid Creek watershed. If we don't protect upstream, how can we protect this area where the Pactola Reservoir is? So we need your help. So next we have the Rapid Creek Watershed Action, which was formed and drafted the Rapid Creek Watershed Recreation Area Act. So if this is passed, then it would mean providing a permanent mineral claims withdrawal for the entire Rapid Creek watershed. F3 Gold and Mineral Mountain Resources, they have claims just upstream from Pactola. And you could sign the Recreation Area Act at rapidcreekwatershed.org. But first, please submit your public comment to support this recent proposed mineral claims withdrawal. Why? Because the Rapid Creek watershed and the aquifers, they're an integral, interconnected ecosystem in the Black Hills. So from the Pactola Reservoir here, it releases water and comes down Rapid Creek, the Minilusaha, and it goes out. But it also recharges the Madison and the Minilusa, which are the two most important aquifers in the Black Hills. So that's a schematic that we created. Say yes and urge the Forest Service to consider additional acreages. Have them consider upstream from Pactola to protect tributaries and natural resources, especially water protections, downstream from Pactola to protect aquifers that Rapid Creek flows into, as well as cultural and natural resources. Ideally ask for the protection of the entire Rapid Creek watershed and or Hesapa as a whole to best protect the surface and groundwater that most of western South Dakota relies on. And this brings us to the final slide. This is how you comment. You can scan the QR code that will take you to the public comment page. You can take a picture of this slide so you can have it for later. And all the information's there. Remember to say yes, you support the mineral claim withdrawal. Ask for the protected area to be expanded. Ask for an environmental assessment. And remember to focus on cultural resources and water quality. I hope I gave you enough information for you to send in your comment. It'll take you about 10 minutes. So please do that soon. I would like to give a heartfelt wopila to echoflight.org for taking us to the sky for an eagle-eye view of our sacred Hesapa. I thank you very much for your time. I wish I could be there with you, but as you can see, our work is cut out for us here. Oha, wopila, doksha ake.
Once again, that was Carla Ray Marshall, who's working to protect our sacred lands of Hesapa, the Black Hills. Also, just a quick announcement, just to respect the space and area, if we could not jump over the bales to use the doorways, just being mindful of that. Our next presenter is going to be also presenting via Zoom. Her name is Kanuhas. She comes from the Sikwapmu and Tanaka people. She's a mother of 4, a traditional hand-poke tattoo artist and birth keeper. Also a land defender of her territory. So she is going to be joining us via Zoom. Yeah.
White Kanahus Pesky. Hello, everybody. My name is Kanahus Pesky, and I'm from the Secwepemc and the Sioux Nation in so-called British Columbia, Canada. I have a short video that I would like to show before I start, but first I just wanted to introduce myself fully by letting you know who my parents are, my grandparents are. My father is Arthur Manuel from the Secwepemc Nation, and his father was Grand Chief George Manuel and mother Marceline Manuel. And from my mother's side, her name is Beverly Manuel. Her mother was Rita Dick, and her father Pat Roy both from the Secwepemc Nation and my father's from the Tanaka Nation. The Secwepemc Nation is 180,000 square kilometers, located in the south central interior of so-called British Columbia. The video that we will show first is a video from a visit that I was invited to Alcatraz, and I was invited by my dear sister, Morning Star, who invited me to share about our fight and our resistance against the Trans Mountain Pipeline and the tankers that will be flowing and down into Richmond oil refineries. And so we can start that video now, and I'll explain more about it after.
Thank you to Donna. This is her first time here on the island, so let's please welcome her with the big O.
Jam, thank you. Morning Star.
It's always good, man. Back in the big historical stomping ground, man. Always.
Hi, ducks. We're warriors. We come from nations of warriors. It's in our DNA. I stand here with all the warriors here that are ready and willing to take the front line, to stand in defense of our lands and our way of life, for our children, for the young women, for the young men that are coming up. We need you. We need you to take that warrior spirit, to find that in your heart, to stand with everything you got. Because that time is now. That time was last year, it's next year. It never stops since the beginning. Our warriors have always been here. I stood on many front lines with Morning Star, and I'm honored, for this invitation that I took this year with this message, because this fight that I'm fighting in my homelands in Secwepemc Ulu is linked to here. And so I come with a message from my heart, from my spirit, from my people, from my land, from my ancestors. 1,000-kilometer pipeline from Alberta, Canada, all the way to Vancouver, to the coast, that we need to stand up and fight these tankers that are coming. From Tsleil-Waututh Nation, all the way around those inlets, down to Lower Elwha, Port Angeles, and out to Neah Bay, to the whale hunters, and all the way down the coast of Washington, Oregon, and California, to the oil refineries here in Richmond. It'll devastate the coast with one spill. To the people here, and to the Richmond oil refineries, Chevron and Shell, and all these big gas and oil companies, it's linked. And every Indigenous person along that way that's fighting this project is linked. So from my heart to yours and my warrior spirit to yours, I connect here in this sacred ground in front of this fire. And all of you as my witness that I'm going to do whatever I can to unite with anyone along this path to stop this bitumen pipeline and these tankers and these oil refineries from destroying more of our lands. In the honor of and the spirit of our salmon and everything that kept us alive to be here today, Kucham. So it's an honor to be here on this territory and to take this invitation to come and join with my relatives in prayer and sacred grounds for our lands and for our water. In Canada, we have around 1 million Indigenous people, First Nations, Inuit, Métis, but we only hold 0.2% of our land base. That's if you calculate all the Indian reserves in Canada, it will equal 0.2%. So not even 1% of land do we hold. Our reservations are very small in comparison to some of the larger reservations here in the so-called US. My grandfather that I named, Grand Chief George Manuel, he's passed on, but he was a great leader of our people. and they just honored him with a Canada Post stamp. So we're going to be able to see him on a stamp up in so-called Canada. But he was the one that really pushed for Aboriginal title and rights and actual title of our land, actual territorial authority and control over our lands. In British Columbia, we have never signed treaties to our territory. Our land still remains unceded, and we're still continuing to fight for our land today. And we've had many battles in just the most recent history in my generation. We've been in, the Sioux Nation has battled against the Sun Peak ski resort, a massive ski resort owned by a Japanese company, Imperial Metals, a Canadian-owned company that we're fighting in our sacred headwaters to our salmon run. And years later, we had one of the largest mine tailings disasters that happened in the deepest glacier-fed lake in the world. It's called Yuchnasenchaimetwa, and it's located in our territory. I was honored to be invited by my sister Aloha Martinez, who's passed on now, to go to Standing Rock and to stand alongside our relatives as they fought against the Dakota Access Pipeline, and was arrested and gained a lot of knowledge to bring into this fight against the tar sands oil and the Trans Mountain Pipeline that's threatening our lands right now. We could continue putting on to the next slide. The way we chose to resist was through building tiny houses on wheels that would house land defenders out on the front lines to confront the construction of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which is a 1,152-kilometer pipeline coming from the Alberta tar sands and going all the way to the coast. And the picture you see here is our family and friends within the Tiny House Warriors movement that have come to occupy the lands. The next slide. What you see is the size of our territory. It's 180,000 square kilometers of land in the yellow, and it's the largest territory that the pipeline is crossing right now. The construction, they say, is around 2/3 completed, and we've had multiple arrests. We've created this tiny house warrior village where we have 6 tiny houses in a little place called Blue River, an area where they wanted to build a 1,000-man camp, a 1,000-man industrial worker camp, a man camp to house the pipeline workers. And during COVID, because of COVID, they said they decreased the amount to 550 men. These industrial worker camps are linked to a lot, but one of the things they are linked to that really affects us is the murdered and missing Indigenous women and the rates of sexual violence, domestic violence, and alcohol and drug violence that happen in and around the man camps, just because of the major influx of men into these communities. Our area is very pristine, and from the length of pipeline from Edmonton to Tsleil-Waututh territory in Burnaby near Vancouver, there's over 1,000 creeks, rivers, and streams that this pipeline threatens by crossing. Next slide. This is one of the rivers. It's pristine. This is Salmon Spawning River. It is Blue River, and we drink from this, we bathe in this. This is the closest river that's close to the Tiny House Warrior Village. So it sustained us for the past 5 years that we've been on the front lines there. Next slide. We've seen many different instances where the pipeline corridor is being built right next to our river. So that this is the North Thompson River, and the muddy sort of pit that you see in the front is the river going over the river bank and going right into the pipeline corridor. The pipeline is not yet covered right here. It was just a hole that they had dug for the pipeline to be laid in. And so we see this all up and down the corridor because the pipeline is actually following the path of least resistance, which is the river valley bottom. So we're going to see catastrophe happening over and over again because of climate change, because of the influx of the water. We've already seen torrential rains and what they call atmospheric rivers dumping and taking out highways and railways. Last year, or like several years ago, it took out all of the major highways going into Vancouver. And it was because of the Trans Mountain Pipeline and the construction and all the clear-cut logging that's taking place on a corridor right along the major highways. Next slide. You'll see this site of the construction of the pipeline up and down Highway 5 in so-called British Columbia, all the way from Vancouver all the way up to Edmonton. It actually links up to Highway 16, which is the Highway of Tears. Not far from this picture, maybe an hour drive from this picture. It'll link up again up to the Highway 16, which is Highway 16 and has been dubbed and known as the Highway of Tears, where there's been thousands of women or hundreds of women that have went missing along this highway. Next slide. Although we're in a conflict out there fighting against this Trans Mountain Pipeline now purchased by the Canadian government, we make this village site a home. And so we have elders, from our elders to our youth that are there, asserting our rights, practicing our culture and asserting our rights and our title to our land. Supreme Court rulings, the Constitution of Canada even holds Section 35, which says Aboriginal title and rights exist, and it's actually us to determine and us to continue to assert what Aboriginal title and rights means to us. And to us, it means ownership over the land. It means that we can move and live wherever we want within our territory. And the Supreme Court of Canada and some of the last Supreme Court rulings said exclusive use and occupation is a way to assert title and rights to our land. So by exclusively using the land and occupying the land is how we're choosing to resist. And we have families that live here, elders right now. I would just, like to say my thank you, Cook's-Jam, to my mom, who's an elder, and to my uncle Wilson, who's shown on the slide, that's looked after this front line and looking after it while I'm gone away from home. Next slide. We could just go through these slides quick. Here we show some of the youth. We're halfway midway point between Vancouver and Edmonton. So we have youth coming from both Vancouver and Edmonton to come and live there with us. The criminalization continues even to this day. We have outstanding number of charges and trials that will be going. Both of my sisters, my twin sister, Mayuk Manuel, and my sister Snudetwa Manuel have continued to face charges, criminal charges for standing up and fighting for our lands. There's a lot of young people that come and are also standing there to confront the Trans Mountain Pipeline, only to be criminalized and arrested. One of the things that we have done in our resistance is to target the insurance companies, and we've been able to get 16 insurance companies to withdraw and refuse to underwrite Trans Mountain Pipeline project and its infrastructure. We've also went to the United Nations, to the early warning urgent action, to the Committee of Elimination of Racial Discrimination to submit how our human rights are being violated by Canada. The UN has ordered Canada to stop building the Trans Mountain, to stop using the RCMP to criminalize Indigenous land offenders, specifically the Secwepemc and the Wet'suwet'en, who are standing strong against pipeline, oil and gas pipelines. And we're continuing to resist, and we need support. As you've seen in the video, the infrastructure from the tar sands doesn't just stop with this pipeline. They want to fuel 890,000 barrels per day from these pipelines into massive super tankers that they want to bring to to Richmond Oil Refinery for processing and refining. This is how we want to unite, and our prayer is to unite with all of our Indigenous peoples and people of the world to stop this major oil. We have to find other alternatives to oil and gas in order for our planet to survive and to our earth to survive. So, you know, in my closing, I want to just really put that out there to connect with as much people as we can. My name is Kanahus Manuel, and it's just like my email is kanahusmanuel@gmail.com. It's very easy to get in touch with me, and I respond to all of my emails. And I know it's crucial in our unity and our prayer to do this now, because like the scientists have said, we've only have so much time, a point of no return, and that point is coming now. And so we really have an urgency right now for us to unite, and not just our prayer, but our actions. So thank you. I'll be continuing to organize up and down this coast and coming to places where I'm invited to speak on this issue so we could unite and stop big oil from destroying more of our Indigenous territories. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanahus. Our next presenter is going to be Guy Jones from Standing Rock. He's here to present on the East Palestine's Ohio train derailment and the community and environmental long and short-term repercussions of that. And so our next speaker, Guy Jones.
Get a little bit closer. All right. Can you hear me? My name is Guy Jones. I'm originally from the Standing Rock Reservation on the South Dakota side. My grandfather is Pezi. He's the one who led the frontal charge against General George Armstrong Custer at the Little Bighorn. That was my grandfather. And a lot of those teachings and a lot of what my grandfather stood for and the things that he did, those teachings carried on over into the family. And what he brought forth to the family and what we today still live by. And it's hard to communicate those things today in today's times. Because you see, what my grandfather brought to us and what he taught and shared was what is known as a Lakowichoha. It is a way of life. It is a way how we think, how we live our life. And that is one of the things that so many people today, the way that we think, our language with which we speak, it's all been influenced by mainstream. And that influence has really caused a tremendous amount of confusion. I remember, what my grandmother would share with me. Because you see, I would go to school. I went to school at Wakpala, South Dakota. And I would come home and my mom would tell me to go check on my grandmother. So I would go check on my grandmother to make sure that everything was okay, that she had water, wood, all of the necessities that she needed. But she would always ask me in Lakota, she said, "What'd you learn? Takoja, what'd you learn?" And I would speak to her in Lakota, and she said, "Hia, Takoja, English." So I would share with her what I learned in English. And she'd say, what's it mean? So I would tell her the meaning of these words. And if I didn't understand or know the meaning, I would go look. I would look it up. And so, you know, when my fourth grade teacher told me to read the dictionary, I read the dictionary. Today, on my office, on the bookshelf, I have 29 dictionaries. Because you see, so many of us don't realize that our language is alive. And you heard that even today as the presenters and people were talking. The language which they utilized, that is a language that has evolved and it is growing because you see, language is living. So I would go and share these things with my grandmother, and she would tell me things. And this is how I grew up thinking. And so many of us here, as we live our lives and go about our lives, we don't realize that the language with which you speak is a result of generations of memory. Those memories, where do those memories come from? They come from your mother. You know, when I was growing up, there was terminology and there was words. And I asked this one word, I asked him, I said, Grandma, I said, we chasha. We chasha. What is that? She said, Nakoja. She said, we chasha. She said, that's who you are. She said, but remember this, always. She said, we is from the word wea, a woman. We is a part of that so that you will always remember where you came from. You must remember always your origins, how you came to be. And it is through the women that I am here today. And I begin my life as a female, as a woman. When I was in the womb of my mother, you know, I shared memories with my mother. And when my mother was in the womb of her mother, she gave her those memories. So the emotions of my grandmother, I could relate to those emotions. I knew when my grandmother was sad. I knew what she felt like when she was happy. Those are the things, and what my grandmother gave to my mother was memories that she also had. And that's where that language comes from. Our language is the results of our memories. Back in 2016, my relatives called me and they said, Guy, there's these children, these young ones, these youth. And they began to tell me about this pipeline. This pipeline that was running across our territory, our lands, our home. And they said, they're going to Washington, D.C. And I said, well, then they're coming through Ohio. And they said, yes. I said, I want to know, because when they come to Ohio, I said, I want to welcome them, and I want to feed them, and I want to take care of them. So they said, good. So I got in contact with them, and I found out that day that they would be in Dayton, Ohio. So when they came that day, we fed them. We took care of them. We saw them. We took care of our relatives. Because you see, that's what I was taught. And afterwards, after all the people had gone away, and it was just us, some of the youth came up and they said, Grandpa, if they are not using this stuff to make gasoline or gas, what are they using it for? So I said, that's a good question. I said, if you want the answers, I said, it has to be the question. Think about the question with which you ask. And I said, and that will give you your answer. I said, but that is a good question. Because you see, I said, they are not making fuel with this. I said, they're making products, things like vinyl, things like plastic. I said, things that are not good for the earth. And so that was one of the things that I began to share with them, that knowledge. Because you see, knowledge is the foundation of wisdom. And that's what I wanted to share with them. I wanted to share with these young ones and give them that. Because you see, there's so much knowledge that so many of us today, we're oblivious to. You know, we don't understand that. Now, back a few months ago in Ohio, you can go to the next slide. There's the next one, yeah, next one there. There was a train derailment. And you see, this is the results of that pipeline. What this train was hauling is known as vinyl chloride. A lot of you here today, the clothes that you wear are made from vinyl chloride. It's not 100% cotton. If you're not wearing 100% cotton, you're wearing the product of this pipeline. And there was this particular disaster. When it initially derailed, when that train derailed, it began to leak. But what they were afraid of is the mixture of the chemicals, because of the 120 some cars that were there, 20 of them were carrying toxic chemicals. And 5 of those cars contained vinyl chloride. So to prevent it from getting into the soil and getting into the waterway, they caused an explosion. They ignited that train to burn it off, to prevent further damage, because they know the toxicity of vinyl chloride. They know. They made it, they know. So they caused this explosion. And when it exploded, there was a massive cloud, and there was this disbursement. And that disbursement caused a lot of things to happen. There was fish, wildlife, a number of animals that died as a result. And even today, there's animals and things happening in Ohio that they can't explain. But I know this is still the residual from those fires. It's there because it's all around us. As we go about your life, look around you. Not only is it the clothes you wear, but even a lot of you are carrying cell phones. You wouldn't have that cell phone if it wasn't for vinyl chloride. The products that you use. How many of you shop at Walmart? Because 80% of what you purchase at Walmart is the result of vinyl chloride. Even the food packaging is the result of vinyl chloride. Now, you ain't gonna stop this, but you can reduce. You can reduce it. And that's one of the things that, if you go to the next slide, see, this is Norfolk Southern. 20 of those cars were carrying, like I said, toxic chemicals. And those chemicals are all around us. But one of the things too is this, is that so many of us don't realize that vinyl chloride is a natural chemical. We have to know about the earth. Everything on this planet is the result of what the earth gives us. And so you have to begin to think about these things, because knowledge is so vital and how they play a part And you know, it's like, and it's as I'm sitting here, and I see some ladies over here making prayer ties, and I wonder, is that 100% cotton? So now it becomes, you know, that material, the threads, all of these things become a part of our life. And these things. So this, the remaining chemicals that were part of that train, I've listed up there. The next one. How is vinyl chloride made? And you see, the one thing about Standing Rock, the youth, and the call that went out, that water is life. Vinyl chloride is a result of fossil fuel and water. And that water, that product that's the leftover remaining, goes back into the system. And that water becomes contaminated. We are going to run out of clean water by the year 2035 if we don't do something now. But there are things that we have to begin to think about and we have to begin to do. We have to do this now. And the only way that we can do that is by communicating with one another. Because what did Standing Rock, what did that teach us? What did we learn? And that's what I ask people all the time. What have you learned? What did you learn from this? So many people remember Standing Rock only because of the rage that took place. They've seen the number of arrests, the number of people who were incarcerated. They saw the violence, and so many people remember that. But they don't remember the fact that when these teenagers, when these youth, the youth of Standing Rock, when they said enough, they went to the elders, and it was the elders who told them. And they became, that was, see, the camp originated as a prayer camp. To go into prayer, to deal with it and with prayer. And the power of prayer. So that's how it was, that was the beginning. And there was outside influences that suddenly came in and took place. And the whole climate began to change. Those people begin to change, and suddenly you're seeing the violence. You're seeing the arrest. That's the rage. That's the rage that so many of us today we hold within us. Yesterday I shared a story about a woman in Ohio. She said, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you." She wanted sage. I'm like, "Why?" She said, she said, "There's so much negativity." And I said, "Why?" And she continued. She said, "We have to get rid of all this negativity that exists. I need sage to smudge." I said, "Why?" Even that word smudge, that's not one of our words. That's not one of our words. My grandma used to say azalea. And what is azalea? Azalea is to preserve. You preserve the good and you make it grow. You nurture it and let it grow. If you want to combat negativity, you create positivity. It's like the young man that was up here a little while ago from the Paiutes. He said, he talked about the dreams. And that's what these youth had. They had dreams. They had dreams of a tomorrow, a better day. That was their dream. Because you see, they too want a better life. That was their dream. They didn't want a nightmare. And that's what Standing Rock, that camp, was a nightmare. And I really get upset when people only remember that part of it. They don't remember the dream that initiated it. how that dream influenced people coming together from all over the world and united. Because you see, these things have been given to us a lot. I live in Ohio, and there was these brothers in Ohio that when the colonials were coming, they became concerned because you see, the people were dying. Most people don't realize the number of native people. We didn't die from the bullets. We died from the diseases that these people carried. They didn't bathe, and they were disease-ridden, and they were killing the people. They had ceremony, and they were given a vision, and that vision was to unite the people. So this man went from nation to nation, and he gave each nation a bundle, and he told them, take one stick every day and throw it into your fires. And the day that you come to this one red stick, that red day, there'll be a sign that these words are true, to come together. And when that day came that the nations burnt that red stick, the earth shook and the Appalachian Mountains rose. They rose to stop that westward expansion. You see, it was through vision and prayer that our Maker, the Creator, that Spirit was with us. And all we had to do was unite, come together with one mind, one nation, one prayer. That's all we had to do. But did it happen? No. And that's what happened at Standing Rock. All they had to do was unite. Those prayers are still there. Those prayers are still there, and what was initiated and what was beginning then, we're seeing the answer slowly. The courts are deciding in our favor. But we have to know. Because you see, when I was growing up, my parents, they said, do you know why we send you to school? And I said, well, to learn to read and write, do math. They said, no. We're sending you to school so that you can learn how to think like white people. To think like white people. And that was the vision that my grandfather, Pezi, he had that same vision. He had that same vision. And he's the one who initiated with the Episcopal Church to begin the St. Elizabeth Indian Mission School, was to educate Native children. Because you see, once you learn how to think like them, then we can defeat them. This right here is your greatest weapon. This is your power. And it's knowledge. We have that knowledge. Why is it today that so many nations are in conflict with the other nation that is here over these sites? Why is Bears Ear so important? Why is Oak Flats? Why was Standing Rock? Why was that pipeline? Why was that so important? It's because, you see, Native people, we know that that energy is there. We have a relationship with our mother, and we know the energy that exists there. That's why they became sacred, and they're still sacred. We know that because we have, and we always will have a relationship with our mother. And it's that relationship. So we have knowledge, and we have those memories. We know why this is important, because of what is there. The earth. You know, yesterday I had talked a little bit about this term. Everybody says, Turtle Island. Yes, there's stories about Turtle Island and how creation, the earth, came to be on the back of this turtle. Okay? That was the gift that was given to us. But the Lakotas, a part of that Lakowichoha, there's something else. Because you see, the Lakowichoha tells us about our responsibility. Has us about our responsibility. So we were told, we don't refer to this as Turtle Island. There was a time when my grandmother would tell me, she would say, Maka washte, the good earth. Because you see, everything about the earth is good. Everything. There is no wrong. It's all good. Even that we were taught to call these things evil and bad, but they're not. Those are lessons. You need to learn from those things. If something happens, learn. What is it teaching you? Don't do it again. When Tecumseh shared his vision, we didn't listen. When Standing Rock happened, we didn't listen. But we need to start listening, because you see, that was one of the most powerful moments when these youth began that run. What happened and took place, the people were listening. And just that alone, that we would take the time to listen to the youth. Because you see, listen to the youth and we address those concerns. We were listening. We don't listen to each other. And how we listen. How do we listen? And I mean, one of the things is that I sit down sometimes, and especially, one of my greatest moments in life is when I sit back and I listen to Arvol and the words that he shares. It's very simple, and there's so much knowledge there, but it's in how you think about it. And those are the things that what today, when we listen, we should listen with our heart. So many of us today, we listen only with our mind. And it's that disconnection. Because you see, the hardest path in our life is that path from here to here. And we need to bring that back together. We need to bring that back together. So listen. Listen to these things. Listen to the words that are being shared. Listen to, as you carry on your conversations. Listen to one another. And you'd be really surprised. When I came here, I met a lot of people, different individuals. I spent the first night I was out here in California, I spent the night at this gentleman's home, and we began to talk. And which I kind of regretted later because I was getting tired, but we kept talking and talking and talking. And even the next morning we got up and we started talking and talking and talking. But anyway, I was explaining to people and I was sharing with people. And there was a young lady that was there and she brought me here to Redding. And we were talking and I was like sharing with her. And then the point, and I don't think she was getting the point of what I was talking about. So finally I went ahead and I did it and I just kind of looked at her. So she handed me the cheese because you see, I wanted some cheese. I didn't say a word to her. I just looked at her and she gave me a plate of cheese. She didn't ask me, but she gave me the cheese. That's what I wanted. Because you see, we can communicate without words. Once we make those connections, we can communicate. But it's the words. So, the next slide. Well, that one there, the next one. Yeah. This is all the information. Those 5 cars, that's how many gallons of chemical were burnt off. And the results of that and what happened. But you see, all of those chemicals that didn't burn up there went on, and now when you go to the grocery store, they give you a plastic bag. That plastic bag is what was coming through those pipelines that came across Standing Rock. That's that fossil fuel, that dirty fuel. And when we go to the grocery store, we gladly take that plastic bag, but we have to begin to do something. As part of the Lakowi Choha, there's 4 types of prayers. And the 4th one, that 4th prayer, is the most powerful one. That 4th prayer is action. We need to begin to take some action. That's the reason why World Peace and Prayer Day is so important. It's bringing people from various walks of life together and coming together and sharing and listening to each other so that the action with which we take is going to be our tomorrow. We do that. Why? Because of our children and our grandchildren yet to come. That's the reason why we do that. And that is why it's so powerful, that action. Those are the things that what we should have learned from all of that. So when I ask people and people talk about Standing Rock, I'll sit down and talk to them. I know when Paula called and told me that she wanted me to come talk about East Palestine, I said, yeah, because there's a lot to be shared. Now, we could sit here and talk for weeks because I can break it all down, everything from the fossil fuel to its final trip. Because you see, so many of us, we have contaminated sites in all these communities. Why? Because all of our garbage, vinyl chloride, as a result of vinyl chloride, all of these landfills are contaminated. It's getting into the soil. It's getting into the water. It's getting into the air. The air that you breathe, it's there. Because we've gotten so accustomed, our lifestyle, we throw everything away. We throw it away. Everything is disposable. We throw it away. And that right there is part of the problem. We are the problem. And the way that we live begins right here. Amen. And so many of us, and I finished the slide out that on the one slide, it says about control. Because of our language and because of the words and because of what is happening, everything is under control. We think like them, we act like them, and we use words. I remember when Standing Rock was happening and people were calling, I had friends from Ohio who run out to Standing Rock. And then there was this movement and everybody wanted to know So they were like, Guy, how do we say warrior in Lakota? And I just kind of chuckled about it. Because you see, we say Akichita, and it doesn't mean warrior. It doesn't mean warrior. And then people would call in and say, you see women today wearing t-shirts and they says warrior on it. And I remember one time asking my auntie, and I said, how do you say that? How is that? She said, Wea. And I said, Wea? She said, yeah. She said, because you see, a woman is everything. It's everything. You don't need to break it down and analyze it. It is, it just is. So she said, when you say we are, you're talking about the universe. And that universe, we are part of that universe, and the universe exists within each and every one of us. So thank you.
Once again, that was Guy Jones from Standing Rock. We are going to be closing up our session for the day, and I just want to thank all the speakers and the attendees that came and supported this event. My dad is going to come to the mic and say a closing prayer.
I'd like to say blessings and greetings again, and we'd like to thank all the people that are speaking out about Uchimaka. All of you are spiritual warriors of Uchimaka, Grandmother Earth, and it's always a great honor to speak with all the nations of the world that we have today, and all the people out there in the audience in the world that are standing with us during these days and of the sacred fire. And June 21st, World Peace and Prayer Day, Honor Sacred Sites Day. And we'd like to someday recognize an international holiday because Mother Earth needs us. When I was young, it was shortly after I became the Sacred Bundle Keeper. All of us have a gift, a song, a prayer. We have our dream, our visions, always for the beautiful life of our people and our ceremonies of life, our sacred sites. But for Mother Earth is a living spirit. In that dream, I dreamt about an old TV, and my father bought when we first had electricity. And my mother always watched this as the world turns. And I thought I was looking at that, the earth was turning. And somebody beside me, an elderly person, touched or point to that screen, and it opened up like a book, and people were standing in a circle. When it closed, and the earth was turning. And this elderly person point to that screen or touch that screen. And a different group of people were standing in a circle. The center was a fire, for we hold that sacred fire in our ceremonies. And it closed like a book. And the earth was turning. And this person touched another part of the world. And they opened up, and another group of people standing in a circle, fire in the middle. I thought this happened 7 times. So then the very next day, I told my father about that dream. And my father said, he was sitting there smoking his cigarette, drinking his coffee, and said, I'll let you know. As days gone by, and he told me, he said, hey, wait, Luha, that dream you have, said, you have to pray about it. In time, it shall be. Said, you can't make things happen. The Spirit, we follow the Spirit. And we have to have the respect for that dream. Someday, you would know in time. And that's the way this head should do. As the years gone by, people are starting to have dreams about the white buffalo calf, about the white buffalo. And shortly after that, the first white buffalo was born at Janesville, Wisconsin, with black nose, black eyes, black hooves. So everything that we do, we have to put through ceremony. We prayed. And the grandfathers told us that, yes, it is a time this white buffalo is born. You must go and pray with this white buffalo calf. And the prophecy of the white buffalo calf woman was foretold that someday, when the white buffalo calf stands upon the earth, many white animals shall be born all over the world. Because this is a time that there's much sicknesses, and that's where I thought about all the sacred teachings that came with it. And once again, that dream, we are at the crossroads. We are at the crossroads, either be faced with a lot of chaos, disasters, tears from our relatives' eyes. We're going to see global disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, big winds. We're going to see no more honorable wars. It's going to be all about money. We're going to see false leaders, false prophets. Or we can unite spiritually, all nations, all faiths, one prayer. And today, we are living that dream. We'll come together once again as nations of Mother Earth, standing in a circle as brothers and sisters. Our ancestors, their dream. We have known what has happened in the history, and today it's our dream that we're going to make history, a new beginning. We warned that someday you would not be able to control what you have created. And that day is here. And so we speak from our territories. People stand in the front lines. We think about all the relatives that are praying with us at this time. For it's a way of life. We do our seasons, the 4 ceremonies. It's a way of life. That Changlesh Kawakha, a sacred hoop where there's no ending and no beginning. May peace be with each and every one of you. Thank you very much.
All right, that concludes the day.